All set?
We're rolling. Don't say anything stupid.
Adjourned. All right, well, we will convene this monthly meeting of the Yardley Borough Sewer Authority for August 12th, 2020. And I will take a motion to approve the minutes of the last month's meeting of July 8th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, properly seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. With that said, Rich, do you know if you and Carl have anything to report from the pump station committee?
Nothing.
Okay. With that said, Cheryl, you may go ahead and proceed with your reports, please.
Okay. We've
And
got
speak up if
financial-
you can, because I can't hear. I'm having a hard time hearing you too.
Okay. Can you hear me better now? I'll
Yes.
Get closer to the speaker. Everyone should have a balance sheet, profit and loss, bill list, delinquent list. If there's any questions. We'll need an approval on the bill list for 30,173.25.
So moved.
Seconded. Motion's been made, properly seconded to accept the bill list this month of $30,173.25. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Just by way of information or question, anybody know how the discussion went last night at Lower Makefield?
It's tonight.
It's tonight at 7 o'clock, same time we are.
Oh, okay.
Question for Cheryl, though, on the bill list.
Yes.
Number 1, Skip Garlitz.
I mean on the delinquent list, Rich?
Yeah, on the delinquent list.
Yes, he's been talking to Carol and I. What was his last statements, Carol? I forget what he was saying.
He's got a water line that goes from one building to another, and he claims he discovered a leak in it. So I told him he needs to go to the water company. If it's that line, we can't really do anything. And I told him he can, could join our meeting, whatever. Well, he wasn't going to do that. So in the meantime, I did get one payment for about $500. But
Okay.
That's a big beef that.
So I assume he's going to dispute it with the water company and try to get a credit.
Right.
All right, I was just wondering if he had a leak or what it was,
Yeah.
or he was just being cantankerous and not paying his bill.
Well, I know he's got two new residents. He's got one new resident, and one vacant still. So that he could be having a problem there too, and that's just sheer speculation on my part.
No problem.
Okay, where'd we go? Anything else while we're here, Cheryl?
No, that's all for the financial reports.
Why don't we talk about the proposed draft budget for next year while
Okay.
we're here? I'm going to trust that everyone got their reading materials via email, and I'm sure. Good evening, Michael.
Hello.
I'm sure you haven't had a chance to really peruse it as well as I would like to. So I would like everyone to obviously take a look at it, highlight any concerns you have, and this is including Brian and Alex. And if you do have a concern, please, you got everybody's email list. Why don't you send the concern out, because I would like to have this voted on next. I would like to have this approved, amended if need be, or, any modifications to it, but I would like to get this done by next month's meeting. Anyone have any questions or comments in regards to the draft budget for next year?
Didn't even look at it.
Okay, yeah, and I just looked at it and that's all I did. I
It's
can see
it's a
that it's in
lot to
the
look
same,
at. Yeah. that's
same
why-
format that Carolyn had. Cheryl
Right.
used the same format to the calculations for the 11th, 12th month and things like that. So, and for the life of me, other than what's going on with Lower Makefield, I can't think of anything as to what we would really need to strategize in regards to income or expenditures. So
Yeah. Some of
again, I
it-
plan to look at it and hopefully within the next week to 10 days have something out, even if it's just to say, no, it looks good to me and we'll go good for the September meeting.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Anybody got any comments or questions about it?
Not yet.
Works for me. With that said, Cheryl, I will move on to the engineer's report. Brian?
Okay, as far as Marshville, I have no update on Marshville. Likewise with Lower Makefield. As far as the joint use facilities sewer project, I had reviewed the appraisal report from Benchmark. Have no comments really. Just concur with I guess Blake. As far as the values seem to be fair. So I'll let Blake speak to the rest of the process. One thing to note, it's not on agenda, but I did get a call or voicemail end of last week from OCC, from their controller, I guess, looking for payment and wondering what they needed to do to get payment again. So for, I don't know, probably about the 10th time, I reminded them what they needed to do in order to get the payment, which is basically 2 items. So that was the end of last week. I haven't heard a response from them back. So
If I'm not mistaken, I believe, Cheryl, you have a timeline file on our communications with them.
We do.
Okay, so just in case it needs to be refreshed or adjusted or modified, make sure we put this note down too, that for the, as Brian said, for the umpteenth time, we're telling them again what it is they need to
They
do.
ask us and then we tell them what we need them to do, and then it just seems like they drop it, and then months go by and they contact us again and say, where's the payment? So
yeah, the last time it was, from what I had, was in January.
mhm.
So
We will
Okay.
see.
Maybe a quick note or contact to them about 10 days from now saying, hey, we gave you the list. Did you get it? We'd like to, I know you want to close it. We want to close it. Nothing seems to happen after we give you the punch list.
Who are you suggesting make that letter,
Hey,
Cheryl?
hey, change the, we did, Cheryl, just an informal thing saying, hey, the ball's in your court. We'd like to close it out too. Let's get this done gently. Just invitation to, maybe they're dropping the ball on their end, but maybe that'll get it to the next person that needs to do it.
Okay.
Cheryl, get with Brian
Can't
about that and
understand,
send
I mean,
something off, okay?
It can't hurt,
Yeah.
I don't believe.
previously, all of my communications had been with Frank Riota, who's the project manager. Who's the guy who attended our meeting a couple years back, I think it was at this point. But I sent
Right.
this last time I sent it to both him and Tom Yeager, who's their financial guy. He's the one who contacted and reached out. So I directed to both of them, and Cheryl, I believe I copied you on that as well. So
Well,
So-
we can take time,
yeah,
Tom's suggestion
I
and
can follow up in a week if I don't hear back from him by that point. So
we can take Tom's suggestion and add a little bit of a, more of a dagger to it. If we don't hear anything by
Little
the
nudge.
31st of this month, we
No
consider the matter
dagger,
closed.
just a nudge.
Maybe I should repeat that. I think we ought to add that if we don't hear from them by the 31st with their resolution on what they're going to do, we consider the matter closed.
I disagree with that at this point.
We're
I
going to
think-
go on like this till next year, Tom.
Next month, okay, then send them the letter saying if you don't close it, we're closing it. But this month, I'd say, give them a little nudge, and then if we don't, don't get closure, then close it in September.
I can go along with it.
I hear you, Tom. We don't want to just, be abrupt with them, but it's dragged on for so long. And they've had so many chances. I guess, looking at that next step about closing out the contract, which I think we've talked about at previous meetings. Hey, what do we do to just break this off and be done with it and stop jerking around with these guys over and over again? Looking at the two lawyers on the call here, like what do we need to do, whether it's this month or next month, to your point, Tom. But when we get to that point, what does the board do to officially and legally say, hey, you guys have stopped work. You didn't do the punch work. We have a certain amount of your money, but that's because you didn't finish the work, and we consider the matter done. Is that a letter from the authority or from the solicitor? I'm just
Yeah.
wondering what that actual final step would be.
Yeah, it could be either one, but have we sent them anything since the last meeting, or did we send them anything between last meeting and now?
Well, not necessarily between the last meeting and now, but over the course of the last couple of years, we've sent them a number of correspondences, I believe.
I know that we talked about it
Right?
last.
yeah, I have emails of the several times that I've reminded them, including in January, which he acknowledged. This is Tom Yeager acknowledged, and he contacted Frank, the project manager, and he couldn't recollect what the deal was. So that's why he took upon himself to contact us this time to try to put it to bed.
When was that?
You said you
Like,
got
Thursday.
from
It was
the
end
controller.
of last week. So
Oh, last week.
You
I think one more. I think
That
a
was
letter.
the controller, which is the third person. You got some from the controller?
yeah, he's the one who contacted us. I know he I believe contacted Cheryl
He did.
at one point. He had contacted Carolyn at a couple times throughout the project, getting payments, and then we were like, hey, well, we'll give you a
Did
partial
you
payment.
send it
So,
to the controller
Yeah.
as well?
yeah,
Okay.
I sent it to him, and so I sent it to two guys, two representatives at OCC.
So,
Okay.
so to both points, to Tom's point about, giving him a last notice before doing anything, and, to Blake saying, well, we should give him, one more final whatever before cutting him off. Should we craft this? Should we do a letter or an email, but make sure that we word it in such a way that it serves as their final notice and opportunity, so that when they don't respond to it, then we can say, okay, that was it. Now your contract's over.
I think that's the way to do it. You say, if we don't, hear from you by such and such a date, we consider the contract concluded and the matter closed. But, that would give it some finality and, give them one more chance. But, I think maybe, setting a date where they've got to, conclude it, or we view the thing as closed.
Okay. Well, if the board agrees, would it make sense maybe even for Blake to do, it sounds like a short letter that would just word it properly so that it's the next step for them to either finish it out or for you guys to close it out.
Works for me.
All right, that's what we'll do then.
And Blake, you can touch base with us if there's any details you need as far as the contract and what's left and that type of thing.
Right, okay, I'll
I'll,
do
just,
that, yeah.
I'll forward you the last email.
Either that or Cheryl, send them the
Two
timeline.
remaining
I didn't see
items,
the
yeah.
communications.
Yeah, send those over, Brian, if you would. Yeah.
Okay, I'll send you what I have too, just summary.
Okay. While you're still on, Brian, you want to go into old business or you got more under your reports?
No, we can go to old business. I had sent over, we reviewed the reconciliations from Marshville with the capital and the operations reconciliations and provided comments to her. The capital, we feel that's in order. Like I said, Cheryl, there was three projects where they didn't provide any backup on the costs. So if you want to, request that, you could do that. The operations, which is meant to be, it's based off of the actual flow percentages. The capital reconciliations based off the allocation at the plant to 12.68, but the operations is based off of Yardley's percentage at the plant, which is generally around 5% or so. And as you may recall, we went through the whole, with the flow meter being down, we had the adjusted flows, which we had agreed to with Fred Ebert, the engineer for Lower Makefield, had done some adjusted calculations, and we agreed to those flow amounts, and that was to be used in the reconciliation. Looked like Marshville, their approach that they did use that, but their numbers did not match Ebert's numbers from his report for several months. So it actually, if it would come down to dollars and cents, if they had used the amount, the flow amounts that were in the report, Yardley would actually be paying an additional close to $11,000. So it's whether you want to notify them and say, hey, we agreed to these numbers, but the numbers were used incorrectly in your reconciliation. I can't hear you, Dave.
Dave, you're
Well, you're on
muted.
mute. You're on mute.
You're saying that Morrisville's numbers were not the same numbers that Fred used or provided to us?
Correct. And they actually referenced that they were supposed to be using Fred's numbers, but there were several months that it didn't match those numbers.
Well, we're talking a difference of $11,000 though, right?
Yeah, $11,000 that Yardley would be paying more.
I think Morrisville needs to do the reconciliation again.
Yeah.
Well, so just so we're clear there, so if we straighten them out, you're paying the 11,000 more. They actually, they gave you, Morrisville, by their mistake, gave you a lesser bill. So this is kind of, that's why we're asking you before just jumping in, by doing the right thing, acting in good faith, being upfront and saying, hey, you applied Lower Makefield's numbers wrong. We're basically telling them is we owe you an extra $11,000, and that's what we're expecting when you recalculate. Just so you're aware.
I hate to sound righteous in this, but I think that's what we should do, because something like this with the potential sale of Lower Makefield, somewhere along the line, this might come back up to bite us. I don't know. I'll listen to your opinions.
No, I agree, and I just want to make sure you guys were clear that it was going that way. But yeah, we're thinking the same thing. That we went through this whole process, and Ebert spent all that time doing the calculations. Everybody agreed to them. So we want to, like I said, do the right thing and say, okay, well, this is what we all agreed to. This is what our share should be.
Now, the worst case scenario is this issue lingers with Morrisville, the same as the other issue is lingering with OCC, and eventually we'll decide the cutoff date.
Well, Morrisville, I mean, this is not unique and new in the history of Yardley and Morrisville and Lower Make. I mean, things dragging in from year to year. And I see Cheryl nodding her head. She's been around long enough to see. So,
Yeah, I mean, we're on 2018 reconciliation and it's now almost, halfway through 2020.
Yep. Well, that's how I think we should proceed. I'm hoping everybody else agrees or will state their opinion about it.
Great thing to do.
All right, then let's proceed. Okay. Anything else on old business, Brian?
I don't have anything else for tonight, so I'll let you move on.
I see Carl and Phil may or may not have joined us. I'm not too sure.
Can you see me, Dave?
I cannot see you, but we can hear you.
I don't know, what do I got to do to be seen here?
I just hit the start record button and it works.
Just click off the button that has video on it.
So go
Oh.
oh yeah.
And
There.
lower left.
So now you can see me eating dinner.
There you
oh,
go.
that's beautiful.
See you.
Are you going to eat in front of us, Carl? Come on.
I sure could.
And Phil, we haven't heard from you, but I'm hoping you're there. Nod your head, Phil. Doesn't matter. We can't see anyway. Well, if Phil comes back on before we sign off, I'd ask him whether he has anything to report or not. Cheryl, could you help us with anything that maybe Phil might have spoke to you about in the last month?
No, everything's been okay with the pump station. I mean, the storms knocked out the power. The generator had to work hard. But everything seems to be okay. Phil had to rig up some, he had to run it on, he had to do something, to keep it going. I'm not very technical, but you know what I mean? So it seems okay now. That tree, we had a tree fall. Right? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so we had that tree fall and we're just not absolutely sure that it's our property, but Dave looked at it, Phil looked at it. It's hard to tell. It's right on the edge.
I looked at it and not to make a mountain out of a molehill, but this is laying on the property of, I don't remember the gentleman that came to see us.
James Ferkel, his name is.
Ferkel?
Ferkel.
That it's not the guy with the boat.
Yeah, that's him.
It is the guy with the boat.
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
You sure it's not the blue house off of Short or off of Bell?
No.
Okay, regardless.
He's the one that called me, James Ferkel.
Got it. Okay. Well, I went back there, looked at it, stood next to the old ball factory building and took a picture of the monument and what I perceived the line to be. And it really looks like it's not on our property. And I guess, without, again, making a mountain out of a molehill, Brian, maybe you can take a look, because I know we did the survey when Helen Sonberg owned the property and we found out that the fence was on the wrong side and all that stuff. Maybe you can take a look at the plot plan and you give us your opinion on whether it's on our property or not. There was no damage caused that I could see. He's right. It just fell over and part of the trunk's still in the ground, but it looked to me as if it might not be on our property. It might not be our tree. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make.
Did it fall onto his property?
Yes.
Yeah.
it fell onto someone's property, and I'm not quite sure whose it is, but I'll take everybody's word that it's the guy with the boat and the,
It is, because he's the one that called me to tell me about it, yeah.
So,
Okay.
and we say the boat guy, the guy that was driving through the pump station property to get to the back of his property?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, and it's not that big of a tree. I think a professional tree company might be there for an hour, if that. But I'd still like to know that it is our tree before we take responsibility and clean it up.
Right, and we have to, you have to respond to him because he's the one that called you and said, hey, this is your tree, do something.
Right, he did. He said, it's on my property, so I need you to, get it cleaned up.
So I guess all I'm asking is, Brian, maybe take a look at it.
I'll take a look tomorrow. I'll be in the neighborhood.
Give us your opinion, and without doing another survey of the property. I'll go up with my
I'll take a look at it
chainsaw.
off the clock. There you go.
Okay.
I get my daughter's got soccer down the road tomorrow, so I'll be there.
Are you a regular at that Yardley, whatever soccer complex now?
4 days this week. So yeah,
God bless you.
yeah.
Hey, Cheryl,
Camp. So
Yes.
occupational tax, huh? Notice I didn't bring up the earned income tax, right?
No.
Oh. All right, is that all you got, Brian?
yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Dunbar.
Yes, sir. Yeah, since the last meeting, we had a chance to go through the appraisal report. And, it's hard to gauge whether appraisals are fair or not, but in looking at it in light of other projects, they appear to be fair. This appraiser applied the market value approach. It looks like what he did was came up with a factor, a value for a square foot, and applied it to the square footage of the easement and came up with a value that way. So I didn't have nothing really jumped out at me as being unusual, but then again, appraisers, they use different methodology, and this one used the market reduction in market value approach. Anybody have any comment on the appraisal report that, if you had a chance to go through it?
I'm good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable, and it appears to be thorough. We drafted a letter to the property owners. I think I sent you a template for that. We haven't sent them out, but the intention was to plug in the amount of the easement. Say, here's what we'll pay you for the easement. Make arrangements to, one way or another, make arrangements to have it signed and notarize the agreement, and we'd hand them a check from the authority. There is one other factor. The eminent domain code does permit anybody even signing off on an easement with no issue, claim up to $1,000 for, costs, whatever that means, for sewer and water line easement. So that is a possibility that if somebody goes to a lawyer and looked at this, they may be advised that they can claim an additional $1,000. So I guess that would amount to a potential of another $13,000. But so the letters are ready to go out, and I would, with the direction of the board, we'll go ahead and send them out.
Send them out.
We're ready to do that if that's the direction.
Dave, I think you're on mute again.
Make a motion to send out the letters.
There you go.
Do you need a motion?
Seconded.
We got one now. Motion was made, properly seconded. Any questions or comments on sending out the letters to the easement? Potential
How many
easement owners?
How many letters total, Blake?
Well, it's 13 letters, so 13 separate property owners.
Okay.
A lot of them, not a lot, several of them are, doesn't look like they're occupied. They're, company here, company there, so they'll be sending them to a corporate office in, Ben Salem or something. There's a couple like that.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Oh, well, Blake, is one of the letters going to Yardley Friends? Yardley Friends meeting?
One of them is going to, yeah, we talked about that. It's, let me see what it is called. There's a letter going to a Church Yardley monthly meeting, Society Friends, Inc. And that is for property at
That's
65 and, is that 65 Main Street? No, that's the main.
okay. That's all I need to know.
Okay. Yeah, that is one of them.
Okay, let me call for that vote again. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
All right, we'll move forward with that.
I'm going to abstain on the basis of my conflict.
Good move.
I'm the
Motion
legal
passes
representative
4,
for
1
the
abstention.
meeting, so I'm abstaining.
You got that, Cheryl?
Yes.
Very good. Good evening, Mr. Smythe.
Hello.
How are you?
Okay.
It's good to see your smiling face.
That makes one of you.
We're all thinking it.
We were just talking about you. And the
See if circular stairs, are you in the pumps?
Yeah, I gave them a very technical pump station report, Phil.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
I said,
But
Phil
you-
did something, Phil had to do something to the pumps to keep them going, and then,
She didn't know whether you used baling wire or duct tape. Which was it?
yeah.
No, I've upgraded to paper clips.
Oh, good. Good move.
The generator.
Generator did well, and I felt good that it was just serviced recently because it got a good exercise. And we had some issues with the storm, but yeah, I sort of rigged things a little bit, but just to get through the storm, and everything's been set back to normal now, and everything's okay.
Okay. Sounds good. We had a brief discussion on your friend and his tree in the back of our
Hear that?
property.
Yeah, I looked at the tree. I sent Cheryl a picture, and it sounds like, Dave, you went to see it. Yeah, I mean, if it's not on our property, it's close to the property line, but it is I mean, it's not a huge tree, so
No, it's not.
by the time we spend man hours and whatever sending Brian over there and all, I mean, it might end up costing more than it takes to just clean the tree up.
I was going to ask Burke Mott to come by and give an estimate.
Yeah. I
If
mean,
you guys don't
it
mind.
wasn't like that gigantic oak tree back there. It's
No.
if I had my chainsaw with me, I would have cut it up myself. But I don't want to deal with that neighbor, so I try to avoid them.
Brian's gonna stop by tomorrow just with the plot plan, just to eye it up to see if it's on the property. And like I said, I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, and I agree with what you're saying, Phil. And I don't think it'll take a professional tree guy an hour to get rid of that stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
So we took advantage of the storm and the power outage to run as much fuel out of that. So I didn't have, when I serviced it, I held off getting it refueled because the fuel in there was getting pretty old.
yeah.
So we took advantage of the storm to run that fuel down further. And Cheryl was lined up so that as soon as the next nice day came, she had Cruson come out and fill it up.
Yep.
So we're good to go. We got fresh fuel. Everything's been changed. And I had one issue with the system went on backup control, and the number one pump would only run at half speed on the backup system. So I don't know what that's all. I don't know what's going on with that. So I ended up running the number one pump without the VFD during the storm, and for a couple days afterward, while Pico went around and turned gigantic switches on tops of poles off and on.
Yep.
But they seem to like doing that.
Yeah.
And that just wreaks havoc on the electronics at the station. So once everything calmed down, I put it back on PLC and back on VFD.
Okay.
And everything else I think is okay. Maybe when those tree guys are there, if they do it, maybe they can trim some of those trees hanging over the driveway a little bit too, because they're starting to droop down pretty low. I can't really reach them.
Yeah, if you guys want me to, I'll text him this evening, see if he wants to come by and look at it.
Yeah, just do like a general cleanup, because things are getting a little overgrown there as far as, every once in a while those branches have to be pruned.
Why don't we get a price on it and see what he says?
Okay.
I'll email you guys if I get a response.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody got anything for Phil? Okay, we're down to, Rich, do you have anything?
No.
Michael? Just shake your head or yes or no. You're on mute.
He's on mute.
That means he doesn't have anything.
Got it. Carl, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Thomas?
No.
Okay, and neither do I. With that said, I think last we have is new business.
Actually, I do have something for you to
Okay.
consider. I watched the zoning hearing meeting, and they had about the same amount of people we have, and they have the meeting room set up and spaced out if you guys want to consider having a meeting in person. They have the meeting room set up and spaced out if you want to consider that for next month.
Who, Borough Council does?
Yeah, take it. Well, Borough Council's too big to have a meeting. They have too many members. But if we want to do it, we could do it. Stop in and take a look at their meeting room setup and see what you think.
I will. I know what Rich's answer is already.
Well, we know what he's doing.
You're right.
We know that.
We'll take that. I'll take that.
Already spaced out.
You got a disease up there. I don't
I
want to
think
come up
he's
there.
socially distant.
You're right, Rich. We've got it all over the place here. But
You
good
got it
Florida
there.
has nothing.
We don't have it here.
Yeah, those bars and restaurants have nothing down there.
You're in the safest part of the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Rich, where you are, it's clean as a whistle.
Almost. But if you base it on square mileage and population, we're better than Pennsylvania is.
That's it.
If you guys want a meeting next month, I'll bring a margarita machine.
There you go.
All right, let's go to new business and the approval of the revenue fund requisition and the approval of the trustee fund requisition.
That's secure, right?
Okay, we have the requisition for the regular quarterly requisition from Bank of New York just to replenish our revenue fund. So that is $175,000 that I'm getting from Bank of New York. So can we have a motion to approve that? And Mike, I need you to.
So moved.
Are these motions or resolutions?
That's a motion. That's
Second.
a motion to approve that, and then the next one is going to be a resolution.
All right, hold up. The motion's been made and properly seconded, Tom and Carl, to approve the revenue fund requisition for the transfer of Bank of New York Mellon. Any questions or comments on that? This is our quarterly shell game with the money.
Yes.
Goes from one fund to the other to pay an operating fund.
Was that your best Bernie Madoff voice as you said that?
Are
All
we
those in
finally,
favor-
are we funneling this to Florida?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes
Come
unanimously.
in.
What's
Cheryl,
that?
Cheryl, do you need me to come in?
I do, if you can come in, because I have all the checks to sign too.
Okay, can I come in Friday?
Yes,
Okay, I'll come in Friday around 10 o'clock, okay?
yep, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
Okay. And then you'll sign the checks and you can sign this requisition and also, okay. So the next thing is for the Morrisville 2018 reconciliation, we are going to need the $121,424.56 to come out of the bond redemption and improvement fund. That is a resolution. Rich signed it for me. Alex signed it. Alex, you sent it to me. I got your email, Alex. But I don't know if it was attached on there. I couldn't find it.
Unmute
Yep,
yourself.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'll check that and resend it.
Okay. In case, maybe I just didn't see it, but anyway.
It's fine.
So since all this paperwork is all filled out and the numbers are there, the $121,424.56, if we owe them an additional $11,000, I think we could just pay, I'm pretty sure we could just pay that out of the regular fund. You know, once we get that. I just thought maybe we should get this passed and paid this month.
So in passing this resolution to pay them for the 2018 reconciliation, this is the reconciliation that is off $11,000 that we will again owe if they receive this check and decide that they do want to reopen their books, and then they would send us a bill for $11,000, correct?
Yeah, I think so, because we have a bill for this amount, you know, so I think that's the best way to do it is to just pay
this
what
amount.
they're asking for and then
Yes.
look at, you know, communicate with them and they can bill us the additional, or maybe they even want to put it on 2019 because that's.
I don't think we should add, I
No.
don't think we should add $11,000 to this amount.
No.
In the anticipation that they're going to revise their reconciliation.
Right, right.
Is everybody understanding okay? That's what I thought. Okay, so I don't have the wording for the resolution in front of me. Do you have it in front of you, Cheryl?
I do. I probably forgot to send you that, but I do have it right here.
Would you mind reading it so that everyone can hear it, and then we'll just take the vote from there, and that's what'll be. And I think, Michael, you're really the one that's supposed to read it, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, it says, resolved that the officer's certificate approving requisition number 138 from the Bond Redemption and Improvement Fund in the amount of $121,424.56 to the Municipal Authority of Borough of Morrisville for expenses of the authority for payment of which provision otherwise shall which provision otherwise shall not have been made, that is, for payment for services related to 2018 capital expense reconciliation as recommended and approved by the consulting engineer, is hereby approved and adopted, and the proper officers are empowered and requested to execute and deliver such officer certificate, and the requisition in the form presented and approved, together with a certified copy of this resolution to the trustee for appropriate action. And then there's a paragraph that Rich signed for me. It says, I, Richard Cole, Secretary of Yardley Borough Sewer Authority, certify that the foregoing is true and correct, blah, blah, blah. You don't, you know, you want me to read all that?
Well, if Rich is in Florida, that'll have to be changed.
I was there when I signed it.
He signed it. He signed it. I further certify that the Board of Authority met the advance notice requirements of the Sunshine Act of the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Advertising, okay, advertise the meeting, we've done that. Witness thereof, okay, it's signed. I have the officer's certificate, that's signed. So everything's in order.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
And Dave and Cheryl, if I may, just to be clear, that 121,000, that was for the capital reconciliation. You mentioned the 11,000. The 11,000 adjustment would be in the operation and maintenance reconciliation, which is separate, right, Cheryl?
Oh, okay, so that was what we paid quarterly towards, we paid quarterly 50,000 a quarter, and then they reconcile it, and I think we only owed like 7,000. Okay, so we already paid that. We paid
Yeah,
the
Alex's point's a
7,000.
good one. Make sure it's a capital, that it's a capital reconciliation of the operating.
Right, so the
Very good.
121 we're settled on for the capital, and then the 11,000 adjustment we're talking about for the operation and maintenance, because that's based on the yearly meeting.
Okay, okay, I got you. Yeah, that's good then. So this is not gonna change, so that's good. Okay.
I stand corrected. Thanks for pointing that out, Alex.
Yes.
Okay. Prior to taking a motion to adjourn, does anybody else got anything they want to mention until next month? Any comments on having the meeting in person or?
The bars are open here, not like there. Time to go to the bar.
I have no problem with continuing the meeting, but we'll probably have to discuss something with Paula. My initial thoughts are that until Borough Council decides to meet back, we won't meet back either.
I agree.
Yeah, I think we should hold off until Borough Council moves in.
I'm sure it's, nobody's in opposition. I can see that.
Well, just for context, you guys, I mean, you know, we deal with other municipalities and authorities. I mean, the driver for meeting in person tends to be if you're trying to accommodate the public.
Right.
And obviously, that's not a big deal for you guys as far as your public attendance.
I agree. Good comment.
Okay.
Okay, nobody else got anything? Carol, do you have anything tonight?
All good.
Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night.
All right,
Good
good
night.
night.
Have a good rest of the month. See ya. Thank you all.